Terry Denny, that was he. Terry John. Ang quiz la nega mau kisi ko Luke. Tolo ko ya. Many people bugok wan manuali dal nuisin. But there's something say na there's a message ko bugok ko garudluay. And lots of times it has to be heard in the English here sometimes. Go ahead. So I'm going to do my best, half and half. At some parts. So, and I think I'm going to have a different topic than yesterday. There's a lot of things I want to say, and usually my sessions go about 1 hour and 20 minutes, and for just this subject only. And there's a lot of other things I can talk about. I can go on for days. When I was in grade 4, the teacher made me a crown. I couldn't stop talking. They couldn't make me stop talking. So I wore a crown for 2 weeks in our classroom, from morning till the after school every day. And it said, Terry, King of Talkers. It was supposed to embarrass me and keep me from stop talking. Now, the year later, in grade 5, I was taped up with masking tape right up to my eyes. Anyway, that didn't work too. The only talk I know is my language. That's the only thing I ever excelled in. I had many failures in my life. And school, I wasn't going to be a lawyer, that's for sure, anyway. And you know what? And I was always told by my grandfather to stop pursuing this. You're going to be some poor. And maybe, he was right in a way. I lived a poor life, and it doesn't, but that's what made me who I am today. Got to acknowledge you all, right? If it wasn't for Chief Wilbur, I don't think I'd be here. We were talking about 3 years now. And he said, Terry, I was a fishery officer. He said, you're in the wrong department. You need to be in their schools. And Wilbur, I don't have a BEd. I don't have a college degree. And guess what? I ain't going back to college. Financially, I can't afford it, He said, don't worry about it. He said, I'll get you in. And in that January, with the education department, they gave us a chance. 6 weeks. We had money. They said we have money till March. And I said, well, there's no point of me teaching something or what I know. I needed to teach to someone. So I had 2 apprentices. Somebody has to, I'm not going to live forever, So Luke was one of them. And then Set was the other one. And at the end of March there, the kids wrote letters. And it was proposed to the province or whoever who was funding us. I think it was Learning Bird that still funds us. Anyway, it became a full-time job. Then they proposed more on the summer, and in September it became a full job. And I didn't expect to go where it was. Then MK got involved, and as of right now, many communities. I traveled to almost all the MK's communities in Nova Scotia, and a lot of people are interested. And not just the schools. I also do a lot of outdoor sessions, camps. We do a lot of camps, a lot of many sorts of sessions, powwows, many different organizations. And you know what? I get the same reaction with adults and in kids, to see, what are people. I do this anyway at home. This is what I do. And people said, Terry, you need to slow down. You're going to burn out. How can you burn out on something you like? I do it at home anyway. So anyway, Wilbur, Vasapi Walalia, for giving us the opportunity. Wawan Daswak. Now, the other thing, what I learned, when we started, you were given the wheel on to start something that's new, something that's old, but new again to the school system. The first thing I thought was, how will I go about it? I ain't a teacher. I wanted to mimic the teachers and ask them, all this. And I said to myself, eventually, I said, if I'm given an opportunity to teach our culture, here's my chance. Do I want to adopt Western ideology, or am I going to take all the simple teachings of our people? They are so simple that we don't even acknowledge them. And this is what I bring in. I didn't read upon how to teach or anything. Public speaking just came naturally anyway. The other thing I remembered was I started remembering what my father and my grandfather did, and my mother's father too. My mother, my Uncle Doug, and my Aunt Dorothy, and Ernest Johnson, all these elders, So I started taking, these are our simple teachings from our people, and I started incorporating them. If I don't acknowledge them or incorporate these, who's going to incorporate these? Western ideology? Now, land-based learning now it's hidden the school systems. And I went out west there to see how they were operating it. And what I saw was they were incorporating a lot of Western ideology. Universities are trying to get a hold of this. I even have people with their writers. They want to write books and whatever. I don't write anything down. I don't know if you ever noticed this. I don't carry a pen or a pencil. I don't practice or rehearse what I do. Because one of the teachings that we have is, my memories were bad at that time. I fell off the scaffolding, and every now and then my memory, I'm not doing it on purpose. Oral tradition is ours. If I don't practice it or acknowledge it, who else is going to do it? If I don't teach oral tradition or practice it, what's the point of it? A lot of people say, well, you need to write this down. I learned that a long time ago when my grandfather was dying. My mom said, listen very carefully. Sometimes he's only going to say things once. And that's how I learned how to listen. My education or my knowledge seeking over the years, sometimes when elders speak or whatever, sometimes you're only told once. And if you don't listen carefully, you forget. So I learned how to listen as a young, because a lot of things were shared to me. Now, the other thing I see with our system and is that we talk about reviving culture and our language. And there's a lot of things that are so simple that we don't practice. One of the things I see is we do not incorporate our elders. The current system right now that we are using, the only system in Cape Breton that I know of is SEPI. I'm part of that, and I'm on with the Elders Committee out there. As of right now, that's the only thing that uses or utilizes elders' advices before decisions are made. That's pretty sad. Our education system, how many schools do you have right now that have an Elders Committee? In reality, I don't think we do. But we talk about we want to incorporate or make our language strong. Are we embarrassed? One of the reasons I told the elders in our committee, I said, it breaks my heart. I said, I see all of you out here. Majority of you do not have an academic diploma. That's the way we see ourselves. Academic paper weighs so much and is highly taken by our own people that our traditional knowledge, a worm's head is higher than our knowledge. But I don't see it that way. I see that traditional knowledge is higher, or at least the same height as an academic diploma. Maybe that's the reason why we don't incorporate our elders, because they do not know English. We are always accommodating. And as of right now, I'm not trying to put school down. There's many choices kids can say. Well, Terry, you're up there and you're discouraging a lot of kids to that's their choice. We have many choices of who we want to be. But our people, our way of life, if we do not see our own traditional or our elders as the same level as an academic diploma, then what's the point of all this anyway? That's why we are losing it. It does not, people say, well, you need to address or make the world let the world know what you want to do. I said, I'm not worried about the world. My sessions are for our people, our children. It is us that are refusing our way of life. I'm not worried about convincing the world. It is us that needs the convincing. It has to start from us. The world can come later, if it ever comes. So anyway, what we do out here anyway is that we do a lot of recreating. And we try to experiment, we try to use them, whatever. Now, the other thing I'm interested in throwing out there is if I were to want to, I'll use my son. One person told Luke, you need to go back to school and get your BEd and come back to the school. And Luke said, what's the point? He said, what's the point of spending another 4 years, which I'll be ended up working with my father anyway, because that's what I love doing. And as of right now, he said, there is no school out there anyway that'll teach what we teach. There is no school out there that'll teach what we teach. We talk about taking control of our own education system. When I was growing up there, I had no choices. I had to go with the system or you're booted out. There's many, many children, there's many people out there that want to become educators of this. But where is there a place that we can go? Universities right away, they take a BEd program. A BEd program that's taught in English, Western ideology, then it's brought back to our communities to teach our language. Sometimes it does not even relate to our language. We are teaching reading and writing in our school systems to teach our children how to do our language. And I ask educators, how are we teaching our children? Are we teaching our children how to read and write our language? Or are we teaching our children how to speak the language? They're totally two different things. I'm 50 years old and I don't write real well. And it doesn't really bother me. But I can speak my language real well. Now, father and son relations, mother and daughter relations. I talked about it yesterday. We are lacking this nowadays. We are losing our children are losing our parents. It wasn't like that before. Fluent speakers that are well connected with family bonding, children do real good with our language. Now my son, for 25 years, he refused to speak our language. There was no purpose for him to speak the language. But I never spoke English to him. And to me, I thought it was always a curse. My son was supposed to be one of the best speakers because I had a passion for the language. And he went the opposite direction. I had no control over it. And I did my part there. All I did was speak the language. And when we started there, we went to Escazone Immersion, and the children spoke to Luke. And Luke said, "Gee, Dad, I feel really embarrassed." He said, "These kids are speaking that." And I said, "Well, it's up to you." And in 1 year, at a conference out in Halifax, I said, in 1 year, with traditional teaching or being together, that father and son relations at work, I can teach Luke to speak the language without writing down one word. That's the way our people taught. Year later, he's fluent now. And not one word was written down. So anyway, then he said, "Dad," he said, "nowadays I think in our language now." I said, "Well, geez, what were you thinking before?" And he said, "Everything, his world was in English." Then I had to translate what you said. Nowadays, everything he hears or thinks is in our language now. Then he translates back. So, I drink a lot of tea, a little bit too much at times. Dupdoeges, my grandmother used to call. So anyway, what I've been promoting lately is what if we had our own school? The BED program, 100% of it, we don't need 100% of the BED. I'm not saying the BED program is not, it's totally wrong. What if we start highlighting the BED program? What works for our community? Maybe 20% of it? And then we teach our students how to teach our language. As of right now, students that go to BED programs, they teach the BED. Just because you got a status card and you speak few words and you can write our language. They're put into classrooms to teach our language because we are desperate for teachers. And what happens to teachers when they do, everything's in a rush. They go into the classrooms, they start teaching the language, they start making their own curriculum because there is nothing really to help them or train them. So they're on their own. They're repeating what we've been repeating for 30 years. They're starting, and it's never growing because we do not have a school that teaches an expertise to teach our teachers. We are more worried about teaching our children, and yet we are not focused on making teachers, real effective teachers. For 30 years now, our language is still dropping. There's many issues out there. Nobody really wants to take because they're satisfied they're on the boat. They're in the system, and they will ride with the system. Every now and then, somebody will come up and say something against the system. Maybe this system is not working. It's not working for me. I don't see it working anyway. It is until when you go to a community when children do not speak the language. That is when you know if you are a good teacher or not. And I see a lot of this. Escazone, all our curriculum is based on Escazone. In Escazone, the first part of teaching our language is already done for us. But in communities where there's zero, it's a totally different way of teaching. So anyway, I would like to see in the future anyway, some sort of institution that teaches all this, teaches all these. I'm teaching students right now. And lately I've been thinking, what if I start teaching teachers instead? I believe that the point of no return of losing our culture, we can see it, is that view. Within 15 years, if we do not do anything about it and write the same system we are going to go beyond that point of no return. There is no way we can recover from it. That's how close we are at right now of losing our language, and our culture. But we can push that aside. We can push that further if action is taken soon. In 15 years, we are going to lose a lot of our fluent speaking elders. And there was that's just the reality of it. A lot of them have passed on the past few years now. Ever since I've been on the Elders Committee out with SEPI, we have lost 8 of them already in the past 7 years. And that's just the reality of it. We have lost 2 of them in Bodlodek already this year. So what do we do? Are we going to ride it out? So I've been talking to few people. They know, I discussed it and whatever. And hopefully the word goes out. The other thing I wouldn't mind seeing develop is a rapid speaking program to teach our language. And they told me, Terry, it's impossible. Nothing is impossible. And it'll be a different system. As of right now, we are not researching or studying what's effective on teaching zero. And I mean by zero speaking child or a person. We are only using reading and writing, but there's no effective way on how we can do it. We come up with excuses. Well, it starts at home. That'd be nice. But what about the children that go home and their parents don't speak? We have a lot of those right now. And in reality, if we become effective educators, we can overcome that. It does not matter if a child goes home and their parents don't speak. It is up to the educators to come up with that. The other thing is, we've been teaching the language over 1,000 years, and yet we are forgetting on how it's done. We are adopting the Western ideology system on how to teach the English and the French, and we are just converting it into our own language. When a child goes to school for 14 years to learn the English language, ask yourself, do you know how to speak English after that? I don't think so. Not till you're still going to post-secondary and, you can basically teach. Now, how is that system supposed to work among our people? When the whole world is written in English, it's not written in our language. So we got 50 years. We need 50 years, the same system, to be effective, the same as what's taught in English in 14 years. So there's many different things. As of right now, we do not have a research team that looks into this. Everybody has their separate communities. The only system that I've seen that's pretty close to it is in Restagush with the adult learning. I was really impressed with that. I went there during March break. Luke and I went. And the system they got there was almost pretty well what I see, what it was I see. I wouldn't mind going to that school and spending time there. Janice said, oh, my God, Terry, come over. We can learn a lot. I said, Janice, no. I want to come here and learn. And maybe I can see things differently or what's needed in that. Maybe. The other thing is, maybe I should have wrote this down. I'm getting lost. It's money, baby. Day my up, yeah. So anyway, the other thing, land-based learning. Do we need it in our schools? Do we need it among... The way I see it, when we started land-based learning there, a lot of the kids there, they couldn't look at dead animals. We bring in animals at the school also. And they shy, and I said, that's okay. I said, bringing back our culture, we're going to bring back the sights and also the smells. And within 3 years, these same children that were afraid of it, now they're the ones that are doing this. So we have, with the Head Starts there, they're really involved with this. They're always outside and whatever, eh? And if they keep it up, that'll be really nice. Now, land-based learning, I believe there's 4 parts in who we are. One part is identity. One part is language. The third part is spirituality. And the fourth part is way of life, living off the land. How many of us have all those 4? Not too many of us. Not too many of us go out on the land anymore. Not too many of us even step outside anymore. You know, we only walk to our cars, then we drive to the next location. Everybody's afraid of the weather and all this. So if we do not have these 4 parts, we will not fully understand. I did not fully understand well, I'm not saying I fully understand, but I did not understand majority of our language if I did not have this way of life. You have to be connected on the land to understand a lot of our language. I can relate that with my Uncle Doug there. He's been in the forest most of his life now. He understands a lot of the terms in our language because he physically sees our language out there. Now, spirituality. We talk about spirituality. Just because we can recite a few prayers or whatever, we think we have spirituality. Lots of us, if you are not connected to the land, we do not understand the full spirituality of it. We are greedy. We do not share. We do not feel sorry for the wildlife or the plants around us. So we are not totally connected. But when you are on the land, you start to see this. It bothers me when I kill an animal, but I feel good when I share it. And that's spiritual connection, I believe, that a lot of us may not experience. Now, identity. Lots of times we do not understand who we are. We are searching for who we are. We call ourselves Mi'kmaq. And I go all over the place there and said, Terry, you cannot change I call myself Ulnu, and my children call themselves Ulnu. I do not call myself Mi'kmaq. Mi'kmaq means my ally to the French. That happened in the 1500s. The word they came up with was Mi'kmaq. But that name stuck to us. A lot of people don't understand, well, what does Ulnu mean? And Ulnu means your first generation child, or your children, Nijan. And a woman told me that in Eskasoni there, only a woman can say that because of Nijinch, the egg. Only a woman has an egg. And it translates to the child that came from my egg. The next generation is Nujij, your grandchildren. Your great-grandchildren is Bidu Nujij. Your great-great-grandchildren, 4th generation, would be Bidui Nujij. Your 5th generation grandchildren is called Chibidu Nujij. Chibidu Nujij. Your 6th generation grandchildren, if we ever live long enough to see them, Chibidui Nujij. And your 7th generation grandchildren, and a lot of us, we use this word all the time, but yet we are looking for Ilnujij. Ilnujij. That's what 7th generation grandchild means. We are born as 7th generation of somebody. So we are born as Ulnu, Ulnusk, Ulnusquej, Ulnujij. And when we combine them, we say Ulnu. So this is what Ulnu means. It means that we are the 7th generation children. So to start off that's a start of identity. To acknowledge who we are, and what it means. Now, today am I up? Okay. Okay, Luke's gonna take over. I think I'll look with I tell you so. I won't talk with. Let it deal. But dear mothers. Okay, he wants to be a rock star.
I don't want to stand here like this for the entire. Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. So for this land-based learning thing, a lot of people want to overcomplicate it and everything, and I'm going to use the Head Starts as an example because I see the most improvement out of them, because their parents are my age, and most of them I know don't speak the language at all or anything. And so my aunt has a little routine with them where she takes them outside, walks with them, and we have signs in the woods that name off different plants or different things. And they're in the routine where they just repeat it over and over again, so they now know how to identify stuff. And these are little 5-year-olds that never heard it at all, never spoke it, and yet when you ask them, what's this, they can point it out and tell you what it is in the language. And that's applying to so many different things too, because we take them for like walks down to the beach and stuff like that. We got a deer this fall and we brought it in, and they did the whole process of fleshing the hide. They took part. There was a deer skull we were working on, and the little Head Start kids went and wanted to touch the eyeball of the deer because they never seen it before and they weren't scared compared to like grade 8s that were grossed out. So their language is improving a lot just by doing this, and they're also learning how to work what we do. They'll see, like my godson's, I'll use him as an example because he's in the Head Start class. He watches what I do when I'm outside in the woods or if I'm making something, and he'll copy me. We were setting up a tarp, and he watched me tie the string, and he did it too. There's also a little boy in his class that watched me make a fire so we could have like a little hot dog roast with the kids. While the rest were playing around, he was just watching me. And then he gathered all the bark and twigs on his own and piled it up and looked at how I set it up. And then passed it to me, and he's like, "Can you light this?" And so it's little things like that that are so simple, but they can help build the language because these are little kids that never heard it or anything like that or spoke it. But they're learning the language, and they're getting better at it. And at the same time, they're learning our culture and our ways, and they're not overly complicated. So they don't have to be super complicated for if anyone wants to incorporate it to their schools. It could just be simple things like fire making, nature walks, or inviting a trapper to bring in a hide and show them how to do it. There's a few people in Esk that could do that. Joe Finhern's being one of them. Oh, how later I'll be doing fire making?
This afternoon at the outdoor session, yesterday we were rained out, but Luke's going to teach how to build a fire there and primitively.
Gonna try. I left my Tinder bundle here and it's gone.
So if my mom is impressed, I am pretty sure anybody else will be impressed. We take fire for granted. The other thing I learned, we also incorporate a lot of ceremonies, a lot of forgotten ceremonies, and we incorporate them at the school. And one of them is the first kill ceremony, Gesquantiged one. And Gesquantiged, my father went through with it, and his father went through with it, and I went through with it. And I did it with my sons. And now we had a new student that doesn't have a father, but yet I did the ceremony for them, and it brought them up real good. And and I hope they continue on it. These are the things that they're not totally lost. The other one is New Year's. Esedlen. We practice that every year. I did that every year, and we still do it. Now it's a food ceremony. And this year, St. FX called me to do the Abugunejid one in February. We also do the spring ceremonies. There was another ceremony. My mind is blank. I don't know if it's the lights or what. Overthinking anyway.
Spotlight.
So anyway, these are some of the things that we incorporate at the school. And I wish I had the same opportunity when I was growing up. We didn't have these options growing up. And I'm glad that in our school, if we bring in an animal,
Or even hides.
Yeah.
The
that
Head Starts again.
the schedule changes.
We'll
The schedule
with these.
accommodates us. And I really like that. Like the high school, they'll bring in their students. The elementary, they'll bring in their kids. And they don't miss out on it. They believe that our education, our way of teaching, has a priority in our schools. I see in a lot of schools I go to, I have to be scheduled in. Land-based learning is not a priority, although it's given, but they say math or English or whatever is more important. So they do not accommodate all these things. So I'm glad that our school accommodates and prioritizes what we bring in. When a moose is brought in, we bring it into the table. All different activities stop, and the children are involved in it. You know, it's only for one day or two. It's not the whole year, eh? So the other thing we incorporate is animals. I bring in a lot of hides, different hides I started buying now. And the thing is, I tell storytelling. And it's hard to tell a story if a child hasn't seen an animal. And you're talking about it. When you talk about a woke, we say, oh my God, they could be thinking about an elephant. You know, you don't know. It's hard to visualize. So we bring in the individual animal hides, and they play with them. They're not first time. A lot of them were scared of them. Nowadays they like this, eh? And so we incorporate a lot of furs and a lot of animals into our stories, and they actually see what we are talking about. With the lower grades, land-based learning is kind of hard because you don't want them to have shop tools. Although my kids, they had knives since they were 3 years old. And but I am responsible for them. And but other kids, you know, I don't really want to. We loaned the knives the first year. Oh, there was blood there every odd day. So we finally stopped that. So I started going on with the older students now, eh? Holy jumpers, I don't know what's wrong with me today.
Gispinit. So a lot of it doesn't have to be complicated if you guys want to try and incorporate it. Like, this is after 3 years of trial and error, and there were a lot of failures for a lot of things. A lot of things didn't work, or they broke, or couldn't get things to work. Like we tried pottery, that was a horrible failure, but the kids loved it, just getting outside and getting clay and cleaning it. And even if it didn't work, they still got outside. They learned how to make digging sticks and the words for clay and certain things. And it never really has to be anything super complicated, and don't be scared to give it trial and error and figure it out for yourself what works for your guys' area. Like if you're by where there's a lot of fish or a lot of beach areas, you can do beach cookouts and do some fishing, try to make some traps, and some kids will participate, others won't. That's just how it's always going to be. But
nature walks are really simple things.
Simple, and they work good. You
but
don't
this is
have
how
to
I
overthink
grew
everything.
up learning a lot of the plants and animals' names. I did a lot of nature walks with my dad there. Eh? Hunting was one of them too. Eh? Same with my grandfather. So simple things, you know, they're effective. Oh my God, I don't know what's wrong with me today.
I don't know. I said what I want to say. I'm good.
Oh, okay, storytelling. That's what I want.
Nah, do you want this?
Oh, already.
Uh,
See, Luke, when we started, he had a real phobia of public speaking. Now he's pretty, I find he's confident now. You know, that's what changes him. We didn't go to no special training, too. You know.
Just talked in front of kids over and over and over again.
Me, I was born with I think I was born talking. Anyway, that is storytelling. With the little ones, as I was going along, it's kind of hard to teach them certain things. So we do a lot of outdoor activities and a lot of storytelling. So in the winter months, when the weather was bad, we did a lot of storytelling. And I'm running out of stories anyway with them. But the thing is, the stories will be repeated. They will repeat it over and over because this is the way I know the stories. This is why we don't write stories down. My grandmother must have told the same stories over and over and over. And each time I hear it, I feel excited as like I heard it the first time. And one of the stories I might as well share with you guys that I share with almost every community. And I believe this story is one of the most important stories that we need to hear, our people. And it belongs to us. And my grandmother used to say, he said, long, long time ago, he said, there was a girl that lived with his grandma. And her parents died. They had nobody. So they had to do men's work. They had to fish, and they also do, they had to hunt and fish because there was no men available. And one summer, he said, drought came. The weather got real hot. And all the streams and all the springs dried up, and all the little brooks where they were at. So the first day, they went without water. Then the second day. Then on the third day, the old lady started getting sick. She could not handle not having water for 3 days. And then she told her granddaughter, she said, this has happened one time ago, he said, when I was a little girl. But there was a place that was half a day's walk away that the spring didn't dry up. And the little girl asked, I wonder if that spring is still there. I don't know, he said. Maybe things have changed. So she gave her the directions anyway. So the next morning, the little girl said, I will make that journey. And just before sunlight, she went out of the wigwam, and there was a dipper hanging on a branch outside. And she took the wooden dipper with a wooden handle on it, and she made her journey. And she walked quite till the afternoon, in the early afternoon. She finally came to a place where her grandmother gave her directions. And sure enough, she found a spring. And she filled up the dipper, and she drank. She filled it up again, and she drank. She filled it up as many times as possible till she couldn't drink anymore. And then she filled it up one more time, and she started her journey back. Not too long after, there was a woman with her children, and they were thirsty. They haven't drank for a few days. So the little girl, she had compassion for the other ones. And he said to the woman, he said, this water is for my sick grandma, but I will share you some. And she gave them all a drink, and she gave them the directions on where to find water. They were very thankful, and they thanked her. So she kept on going. Not too long after, there was an old man sitting on the side of the trail. He too never drank for a few days. And the little girl felt sorry for him again. So he gave him a drink of water, and he told him, this water is for my sick grandma, but I will share you some. And the old man was thankful, and she gave him the directions. So she kept going. There was a dog on the side of the path there. And she believed that the dog never drank too. So she poured some water in her hand and fed the dog. Let the dog drink. And in 2 barks, the dog gave out 2 barks. And in dog language, that means thank you for the water. Anyway, I added that part on. That's not the original story. But I can change, So anyway, she kept going. And it was probably at close to dark by the time she came back home. And she gave the dipper to her grandma. And her grandmother looked at the dipper, which was partial now. And she said, for the long journey you took, did you fill up your dipper? He said, did you spill it? He said, no, I filled it right up to the top. He said, what happened to the water? So she told her story that she met the women and she felt sorry for them. And then the old man and then the dog. Oh, so the old lady said, good things come when we share. He said, you did the right thing. So she drank the rest of the water. And the little girl took the dipper, and she went outside, and she was going to hang it up on the same branch. And as she was walking out, the dipper started to glow. It glowed in her hand. And she raised it up to look at the dipper, what was happening, and it started to float. The dipper started getting larger and brighter. So she chased it, and she couldn't reach it. And she watched the dipper float up into the sky, getting brighter and larger, and until it settled, and it turned into the little dipper in the sky. Now, the little dipper is there to remind us of the little girl who shared. And my grandmother used to say, nobody shares. Not too many people share nowadays. But the dipper is there every night, even on cloudy nights when we don't see it. And it is supposed to remind us to share. Now, I tell the story everywhere. And I believe that maybe this story is a prayer or something. And by this prayer, by this story I have been telling, in November we went on the island in Chapel Island with a group of kids. We were going all over the place there. And at the back of it, all my life I've been asking, how come there's no water on the island? Nobody really knows there, and they assume, but nobody has really. So as I was standing, I seen some water right at the edge there, and I couldn't help myself. I knelt down and I drank. The clearest fresh water. It was a nice good spring there. And what I thought at that moment, maybe this story was a prayer for water and the little girl that shared. So this year in Chapel Island, I want to take a few elders out there, and we're going to show whoever wants to where water is. I believe that water hasn't shown itself over 100 years there. And I believe this story has brought the water back. So anyway, I tell this story a lot there, and the more I tell it, I'm hoping the kids, but I also tell it in our language. So anyway, that was that anyway. And then there's the other stories they love about the gin-ups and the, So, and nowadays when I tell the stories, the kids say, the TTT they call me. Oh, I don't like that. Tall Tale Terry, they said, eh? And I tell them, I'll tell you one thing about me. I do not lie. I do not lie. I'm just unbelievable. Let's see how much time I got left. Oh, 9 minutes.
Do you have something to talk about for 9 minutes? Or? No, I'm good. That's fine.
So there's a lot of stories that I share there. There's, people like, and this is just one of them. We don't have this in our school systems no more. I don't know why we don't call in elders to tell stories anymore. We are losing a lot, but we still have a lot. All we got to do is start acknowledging all these simple things. You know what? Maybe we need to sit down too to identify what is our culture, what is ours. I know I can name a lot of things that are so simple, but yet they're ours. But it's up to us to acknowledge them. Now, geez, I ran out of tea too.
It's also okay to get help. We have a Cree sweat brother that still does a lot of like hunting and smoking meat. So he's going to come to the school one of these times and show us how to build a smoker. And then we're going to show the kids and do that with them, probably have a camp out and stuff like that while we wait for the meat to dry.
Another thing about land-based learning, we have a campsite behind our school, eh? We also have a walking trail. I see a lot of schools out there that do not have access to the woods, or it's just the way their location is at. And we do outdoor overnight camping also in Bodlodek there with the students. And I think one person asked me the other day, I think Escazoni. They were thinking about a camping program, and I invited them over there. I think we're going to start camping again next weekend. The kids were planning on this weekend. But that's another good way to introduce. We also do a lot of cooking, outdoor cooking, and many different ways of cooking. You know, it was common back in the old days, but not too many people cook out in a campfire out now. And we rely on modern things so much. But what if you didn't have anything? You know, and this is what we are trying to figure out, a lot of things, eh? And sometimes we have to, like smoking. Smoking in this area has been lost. But I know they smoke a lot out in Restigouche area in Eel River Bar. The big problem we have right now is that we are all separated in this big nation of ours. Ulniwagi, our 7 districts. If we do not come together and share all this, we are going to become different tribes. That's how tribes are formed. Either a clan or whatever. It's caused by hate or not communicating. We were once before one tribe in North America. But it's because of that, you know, our hate and wrongdoings, or you don't like this one or that one, that we separated. And this is why we have many different tribes in North America. Well, guess what? If we don't come together as a one nation, or all of our 7 districts come together, we will become tribes. I see it nowadays. We even start calling it Esisonigoa, Podledegoa. This is how it starts. You know, in our language, Wejeyaruti. It means that we are not we are against each other instead. One of the things that I'm interested in is I'm traveling out. I hear a lot of new words when I go to New Brunswick or Quebec area, and I'm really interested in it. They use a lot of words that we don't use, and we use a lot of words that they don't use. One of the words is, I tell people, they say when you lie, exuan. Yeah. But it's an incomplete word, I tell them. What do you mean? You guys say the front part, and in out here we say the last part. We say gespugalet. The proper word for it is exubugualet. But we say the last part, and they say the front part over there, eh? So maybe we need to come together. The other thing I noticed lately is weeses and wises. And it's funny when you think about, if I didn't know animals that well, or sometimes some things are obvious. Are they saying it? Thank God I don't read. Anyway, weeses. Are we saying it properly? Or who's right? Out down New Brunswick, and they're saying it in Quebec. And we say wises. Then it dawned on me. Wees, it means a dwelling, like a beaver lodge. And then I started thinking, maybe weeses is to the animals that build their homes. And wises are the ones like the moose that don't build their homes. Sometimes, even, you know, if we come together, maybe we can solve a lot of our language. But as of right now, niktuoti. You know, sometimes when you go to New Brunswick, geez, like speaking to another tribe, you don't understand each other, eh? Yeah. So anyway, with the school system I was thinking about, maybe we need to come together as and never mind the New Brunswick and all these other provinces or whatever. We are trying to accommodate the province in many ways, and yet we have our own our own control. So anyway, happy birthday to Ann Johnson. And the other one I want to acknowledge. There's a person that I want to acknowledge. His name is Joseph. Joseph Blair Bernard. Joseph, they call him. He's doing a lot for the youth. He started a little program on his own, and he has a great teacher. His teacher is Ernest Johnson, and he's teaching him how to trap. Ernest is an expert trapper. He's teaching him how to tan hides, and he's learning a lot from him. So Joe, give a big hand for Joe there. He's here today here. I'm going to acknowledge him, and keep up what you're doing. Sometimes when you do these things, if the world don't acknowledge you, at least, keep on doing it. You never know, I'm glad I didn't give up when I was young. I didn't realize this would become a job or a reality. The other one I'm interested in also acknowledging is Elwin. Elwin reminds me of when I was young. I was anxious. I was always learning the words and whatever. And people come to him. They tell him, Elwin, and he's got a good memory. He records a lot, and keep up what you're doing, Elwin. The other thing is a lot of elders that nobody even acknowledges. I meet a lot of people all over the place, and I learn a lot from them. And I might as well say thank you or acknowledge them. Like Milo's John I see over there. She's done a lifetime of work. Douglas and my Aunt Dorothy. Susie Marshall. Jane Meader. I really appreciate her. There's many, many more. Amy Betsy Prosper. Vivian Jown. Oh, well. Vivian will love it. And the other thing that changed my life was when Barbara Sliboy and Mary Ellen Gugu came in 1986 in Escazone, and they started teaching the program. First time I had high marks in the 90s. From 50 to 90, that was pretty good for me. I couldn't even sit on a chair. That's how excited I was, And I appreciate them, Arlene and the committee. Elizabeth Ryan, she did a lot of work. These are the people that, and all the rest of the crew, Becky, out in, that's doing a big change out in their community. These are the people I know anyway. I meet so far. Brian Francis, he's doing a lot. So anyway, well, all y'all, and we'll be doing an outdoor session at 1 o'clock, and hopefully we'll teach. Good. Hopefully we'll get somebody making a fire. I know Chief Leroy tried, I think twice or 3 times, and he eventually got the fire going. Okay, well, all y'all.
Want this, Joe?
Once again, happy birthday to Ann Johnson. Happy birthday. How about a big round of applause for our presenters here? Amazing, amazing job. Terry, Luke, Walalan. Elders first, please. Elders first is the big message right now. Elders first. So if you're 100 and up, you could go eat now. If you're 95 and up, you could eat now.